If you've ever posted a short form video and expected it to get billions of views, just to check a day later and see that it hasn't even cracked the 1,000 view mark, then you're in the right place. Because there's this one simple thing that decides whether or not your TikToks, shorts, and reels flop. And it's not how good your camera is, it's not the topic, and it's not even the editing, it's the script. And I know this because just through the power of writing good scripts, I've hit a combined total of over 5 million views. I've had short form videos hit 200, 400, and even 500,000 views. And if that's not enough to convince you, just go look at any short form content that ever took off, and you'll quickly realize that the words they're saying are what's actually carrying the video. So, in this video, I'm going to be revealing the 5 things that I've used to get millions of views that you absolutely need to be doing to write banger short form scripts that the algorithm loves, pulling you millions of views on your short form content. And of course, blowing up your accounts. The very first part of your script is the most important part. That's your hook. And if the hook is bad, no matter how good the rest of your video is, no one will stick around to watch. Now, rather than me just feeding you the generic hook advice, over the past 90 days, across more than 40 videos, I've been testing my hooks with almost every single one. And the only difference between this video with 445,000 views and this video with only 18,000 views are 3 tiny action steps. So, with that being said, I'm going to explain to you exactly what you need to do. So you've probably heard from the social media gurus that you can't perfect your hook, and it's better to just focus on the video getting 1% better every time. Now, although that is kind of true, there are definitely ways you can manipulate your hooks to see massive amounts of views fall at your feet, especially after you implement all 3 steps. And it starts with value depicting in your hooks. Now, this is one of the best kept secrets from every single one of the big creators out there, regardless of the niche. For example, from simply taking a brief scan at the first couple frames of all of these videos, you know exactly what you're getting if you keep watching. And the first thing they all have in common is the graphic that demonstrates what's inside the video. Now, this isn't just done for fun. In fact, it's proven to work because a recent study from the US National Institute of Health found that 65% of the American population are visual learners. And this is social media, so it's more likely to be between the 70 and 80% mark. But what's even more shocking is the president of ShareThrough, Dan Greenberg, found that 75% of people keep their phone on mute while on social media. It's a pretty high number. So in other words, if your video doesn't show the value visually, your video is pretty much screwed. So that begs the question, what graphics do I need to use? And how on earth does this all work? Well, it's simple. And it comes down to those 3 easy to implement action steps we spoke about just a minute ago. The first is to always start your hook off with the word this or his, for the sole reason that they're both demonstrative pronouns, which by definition is a word that points to a specific person or thing. Or in other words, they're great at grabbing the viewer's attention right off the bat and leading that attention into whatever you want. Now that leads us on to filming for the edit. By now, we know we need to be using a graphic in the hook, but if you don't allow space for it, your video will look unplanned and messy as hell. So to ensure that doesn't happen to you, just hold out either of your hands in the hook as you say the word this, and as a bonus, look down towards your hand. This will mean that all that attention will go into that graphic we're about to add. Now, the graphic you choose can make or break your video, so it's crucial that we get this right. First things first, we need to ensure that there are absolutely no words within your graphic. Remember, this is a visual platform, not a verbal one, but if you absolutely have to, you can use numbers. Most importantly, the graphic has to foreshadow without giving everything away. For example, if you're talking about a website, show a screenshot without the URL on screen. If people have already seen it before and it's something more unique, like the golden ratio for example, show it on screen, but just don't show it in action. Otherwise, you don't really give your viewer a reason to watch. You give them a decision to scroll. Now, the second thing that you'll notice super quickly if you go and study some of the most successful short form videos is that they just don't ramble, and everything they say is super quick and to the point. Elaborating on things and rambling is definitely something you can get away with in long form videos like this one, but in short form scripts, it's non-negotiable. You'll notice that even in podcast clips that go viral, the people are speaking extremely concisely and waste no time. Either that or it's been chopped up to shit. Now, as much as me telling you to stop rambling is somewhat helpful, there's actually only 2 things you need to implement in order to make your videos as short as possible. And rather than me explaining it, let's take a look at an example. We use my golden ratio video. This video, as I said before, is sat on around 445,000 views and pulled in just shy of 3,000 followers from very little effort. And here's the exact script of that video. Notice how it was as short as possible. If I removed any lines or sections, the video just wouldn't make sense. But if I added any sections or sentences, then the video's runtime would extend for literally no reason. This is what we like to call added context. We have to remember that each video is made for a broad audience, not a complete beginner. And the chances are, if I just started going on about what newspapers or creators use the golden ratio in way more detail, that would be classed as useless information, as the viewer doesn't really need that added context for it to make sense. So, simply by asking yourself, would the video make sense without this information in the script, line by line, you can start to make your video as short as possible. But we have to go one step further. Remember earlier when we uncovered that 65% of the US population are visual learners? Well, that same US population also has an average readability level of a 7th or an 8th grader, which means as much as we want to make the videos as short as possible, we also have to dumb the videos down. Thankfully, there's a free tool that does exactly that for you. Once you've got your script down, just head over to hemingwayapp.com and copy and paste your script in. And as a quick rule of thumb, if your video scores below a grade 7 readability level, then you're good to go. Just make sure that it doesn't go below a grade 5, because come on, you're an expert in your field. sound like one. What you should focus on in your scripts is breaking down complex ideas into quick, impactful statements that can be delivered in 1 to 2 sentences. But just make sure you try and focus your energy on writing short, punchy lines that keep the pacing fast and make it easy for viewers to follow along with, without getting either overwhelmed or bored. So, before we touch on mastering arguably the most important thing when it comes to writing a killer script, there's one thing that's even more important to get right visually. And to be honest, you might have already clocked it. If you noticed from that podcast clip, not only were the sentences super concise and punchy, but there were also subtitles over the screen for those concise sentences, helping a ton with retention and giving people something to look at. It actually ensures that those 75% of people that watch your videos without any audio can still get the message. And this is a bit of a shameless plug, but I have to mention that those subtitles are probably automatically made using Submagic. All they had to do was upload that clip, choose a subtitle type and location, and boom, they had their finished viral clip in just 3 clicks in a matter of minutes. The link's in the description if you want to check it out for free. Now the third trick here is to really try to write with conversational language. Now I'm sure you've seen a video on social media that completely sounded like an ad, not just in terms of the person's tone of voice, but the actual words they were saying too. That's what you want to avoid at all costs. Social media is called social media for a reason. It was originally made for people to be able to connect and chat, not to be advertised and sold to. And if your videos are sticking out like a sore thumb and clearly have the goal of sales at the heart of them, then that's a sign that you're doing something wrong. So that trick I mentioned is to write like you speak. I know that sounds super obvious, but I promise if you just give that a try, it will change everything for you. And honestly, on top of that, try to write as if you're speaking directly to one specific person. Now, although that might sound easier said than done, bear with me. You just have to avoid using too much jargon and instead use words that feel personable and relatable, like you, we, and us. These are the words that you'd say if you met your friends at a coffee shop, and the same needs to be applied to your video script. Not only this, but putting the occasional like or will work a treat to hide that scripted feeling. If you can keep a conversational tone throughout the video, that's going to help you draw a ton of viewers and build a good connection. The fourth thing I want to mention is probably the most underlooked part of a short form script. And that's for pretty good reason, because it isn't just something that you can tell by hearing or reading the words of the script. It actually has to do with the entire video itself, and that's having a story arc to your video. There's a good reason that random rant short form videos don't get the same amount of views as Mr. Beast short form videos. In a random rant, unless it tells a story of something interesting that happened, there's usually no story or anything really to follow. But someone like Mr. Beast is a master storyteller, because the undeniable truth is that humans are storytellers. So, in your short form content, you need to include a mini story arc. Set up a relatable problem, hint at a challenge, and deliver a quick resolution or solution. This structure keeps viewers engaged from start to finish, as they feel like they're going on a mini journey. So, if you get anything out of this video, let it be that you absolutely need to incorporate storytelling into all of your scripts. We're almost done. So tip number 1 was about the start of your short form content. Therefore, it's only natural that tip number 5 is the end of it. You see, every piece of short form content you upload needs to have a CTA ending, or a call to action if you haven't heard that term before. What that means is asking for people to comment, follow, or if you're selling something, saying link in bio. And there is a few levels of this, but if you're a master of it and incorporate it into your scripts, then you're going to see way more engagement than you ever thought was possible. The thing you need to avoid is just having no CTA. Even if you think it doesn't work on you, the numbers don't lie, and it's absolutely worth it. So end with something that encourages viewers to engage. Now in this video, I use Mr. Beast scripts and storytelling as an example of some really good short form content. But in reality, his approach is so deep and he's so skilled at content creation that I couldn't cover it all in a video like this. So in the next video, I show you his 4-step process for creating the literal best short form content in the world.